Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me and this wonderful panel of ladies to talk about another option as we consider our sons and daughters who are adults and launching, right? Leaving our homes, what that might look like. So today I have with me Weda Zoller, Sue Gaffney, and Pam Walley, and we're going to be talking about what it's like for an individual or an adult with intellectual developmental disability to live on their own, to live in their own home and receive supports in their own home. So I have a few folks that are watching, and just a little bit of housekeeping. Um, I would love to give you a shout out, and so post something in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook, if you could give StreamYard permission, then I can see your name if you would like. If not, that's okay. And on YouTube, I can definitely see the names of individuals. So welcome and good morning. Hopefully you have some coffee maybe with you this morning. I know I might need a second cup in just a bit. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, give me a shout out. Would love to know who's watching this morning. Tina, I want to thank you for supporting my channel. You're always watching, and I just appreciate you so much. So good morning. Good morning. And feel free, by the way, during this conversation to ask any questions that you might have. Hey, Tammy, how are you? Watching on YouTube. So feel free to interrupt, ask questions. I love that. Hi, Susie. Susie is actually the inspiration for this interview today. So I want to thank Susie. And she's here. Feel free to ask questions. You will not be interrupting. So on with today's conversation. Good morning, Kathy. How are you? Thanks, you all, for joining. Okay, so just a quick disclaimer as folks are jumping on. This interview today is general and for education purposes only. So I encourage all family members to do your own research so that you can make the best decisions for your family member. Okay, all right. Sunita is on. Good morning. All right, so we do have some folks with us. This is great. All right, so today we're talking about individuals living in their own homes. And so someone gave me a great question yesterday, and I want to start us off. What is our definition of own home? What does it mean to have your own home? What could that look like? So who might want to start us off? Yeah, Pam.
I'll start. The key to living in your own home versus not living in your own home is not where or what the home looks like or any of the particulars, which we'll all talk about because Sue and Weda and I, our adult children, all have very different own homes. But the key piece to the question is whose name is on the lease or the mortgage? Who owns? Is this a provider owned home or a person and or family owned home? So that's the big difference is does the provider of services own the home?
Okay. All right. Anything else to add to that? Okay. All right. So, and I just want to give you all an opportunity to introduce yourself. We all have such rich stories. I'm a parent. I have two adult sons on the autism spectrum. One lives with me. One lives actually across the street from me. And so, but I'm here to really talk about everyone's experience. So, Pam, tell us about your daughter, and then we'll go to Weda and Sue.
Okay. I'm Pam Walley, and my daughter is Callie Moore, and Callie is living her dream. She is 26, soon to be 27 years old, and lives in Athens in an apartment that she shares with a roommate. So Callie and her roommate, their names are on the lease, and they are the renters, and so that falls in line with what I said earlier. Callie is a young woman who has really strong and always has had really strong ideas about what she wants in life. But she has some challenges. She does not use words to communicate, and she's very, very medically involved. And so she needs a lot of assistance with all of her daily activities, communication, medical interventions. It takes a lot, but in spite of all that, Callie let us know. We did a plan for her as she was getting ready to graduate high school. And for the first time ever in her life, through the help of somebody else, not me, because I'm her mama. I don't know if I would have ever said, Callie, do you want to move out of my house? Because, I don't know that I couldn't envision it at that point. And Callie's basic, she can answer yes, no questions, but that's it. So if you don't ask, you don't know, right? So when she was 21 and about to graduate high school, she said yes to, do you want your own place? And so it took us a couple of years to figure out how in the world to make that happen, but it happened. And she is living very successfully and very happily. And I have to say this, I see a future for Callie that's going to be okay without me in it. And I know that I could not have had that if I had not seen it with my own eyes while I was here to still see it, if that makes sense.
Okay. So Pam, Callie lives in an apartment with a roommate, and she's served by Georgia Options.
Yes.
And you are a part of Georgia Options as well. So I want to be clear as well. Yeah.
Yes, I should say that. I'm also, I work for Georgia Options as I'm the advocacy director, and I worked for Georgia Options before Callie started getting her CLS services through Georgia Options. But yeah, we're all connected.
Okay. And so I'm asking nuts and bolts here about some things. And so in order to get those supports, she needed a Medicaid waiver as well. So she's had a Medicaid waiver for a while now.
Yes. Callie has a comp waiver, and specifically, I'll tell you about the supports. And let me tell you, she's 100% okay with me sharing this information. We do this all the time because honestly, this is how people know, is if you're willing to share your info. So she's good with this. Callie has 24-hour nursing support because of the severity of her medical needs. So she has a nurse around the clock, and then she has CLS staff that she has during the day, so that she can do the things that she wants to do with her day. Somebody to drive her van, somebody to help her with her day-to-day life, and then overnight she and her roommate share a CLS staff member because they're asleep. They don't each need their own staff person in the night like that.
Okay. And so again, that other roommate also has a Medicaid waiver, and that's what makes this work. He does.
Okay. He does. He doesn't have a 24-hour one-to-one. He has 24-hour one-to-one need. Callie has 24-hour one-to-one need. Between the two of them, they're able to have enough funding through their comp waivers to get staff that covers the whole 24 hours.
Okay.
So I'm not there, or his family's not there.
Okay. And then again, Georgia Options coordinates the staff that come in and out and train the staff,
right?
Recruit for staff, etc.
Oversee the staff, right?
Oversee. Okay. All right. Let's move on to Weda. So, because every situation is so unique and beautiful, and so Weda, tell us about your daughter.
Thanks. Our daughter Katie is our second daughter. We do have her sister is 2 years older, but Katie is 35. And we, God, the grace of God, we got the waiver when she was 24, the independent living waiver. She had the comp waiver. She'd had it for day programs and respite and everything, but at 24, she got the full comp waiver, including independent living. And so we were able to put her into a group home with another agency. And she had 3 other roommates and staff across the city from where we live. And I was neurotic. I was a mess. I was just a mess. But then we moved her closer to us. At that time, we lived in DeKalb County. And probably 3 years in, we moved her closer to us in DeKalb County. She was living in Cobb County, and she was having some behavior issues. Katie is nonverbal. She is ambulatory. She doesn't need 24-hour nursing. She doesn't need any nursing. She has behaviors. And if she doesn't go to the mall, she gets really upset. So we went through group homes, group apartments, a group home, and Katie doesn't play well with others. She she becomes very possessive of her roommates. You don't know that until you're in a roommate situation. I mean, Katie's very possessive of mom and dad, our iPhones, things like that. But she does that with her roomies. And we decided to make a change. We knew about Georgia Options from Rena when she was at Georgia Options. We've known Rena forever. And we went with Georgia Options, and she had a roommate the first year she was with Georgia Options in an apartment. But Katie loves to go. That's her middle name. And it's fortunate we're with Georgia Options because they get her going. But she just wants to go out in the community, whether it's walking, whether it's at the mall. It's Stone Mountain Train. Every weekend you can find her there. But they provide, when we moved to we decided, John and I decided to put her in her own community. And we looked long and hard that Katie, doesn't play well with others. But we purchased a home. And it is Katie rents it from us. But Katie rents it from us, and she is in her own community. And when we decided on the house, things like mowing the yard, the HOA association does that. It's a wonderful thing. Those little tiny things of who maintains your home and who takes care of it is an important part. But we decided this was the best thing. Katie can have a roommate. We just haven't found the right one yet because her house is a 2-3. And I'm sure there's someone out there that wants to be Katie's roommate, but they would have to walk steps. So, and Katie doesn't do steps. So, but I'm not in any hurry. Katie loves her home. She's been there 4 years now. My gosh. So we've seen every aspect of group homes, group apartments, and she is blooming in her own home. So
and she and I don't mean to go back,
okay.
but I can hear my voice in an echo somewhere. But anyway, it's gone. Great. So those other settings, did they not work? Was it kind of a hard move? You kind of had to move her?
No, the first one that
things.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The first one was out in Austell, and we lived at that time in Tucker. She was 35 miles away from me. And this was before FaceTime. So I, neurotic parent that I am, wanted her closer to me. And the agency that we were with said, yes, we could get our own apartment with we had 2 other roommates, and we got it in Decatur. So she was only less than 10 miles from me. But I wanted to be able, if there's an emergency, I want to be able to get to her. And They loved the apartment, but unfortunately, the apartment complex kicked them out because they bulldozed it. They just
Oh, okay.
and made
Yeah.
townhomes out of it. It's prime Decatur property. But and then we moved to a house in Tucker. The agency purchased a home or got a long-term lease for a home, and it was in the agency's name. And when Katie was literally kicked out of the day program because of her behaviors, that's when we said, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. She just was, she was very possessive of her peers. She was very possessive of the DSPs. So they couldn't handle her behaviors. So we said, no, we're following Rena, and we're going to go this route. And like I said, we went into an apartment with another roommate to begin with, and she smothered her too.
Rita, Tammy's asking, what does the staffing look like for Katie?
What does what?
The staffing look like for Katie?
Katie gets 24/7, one-on-one.
Okay.
And it's been awesome. It's Katie has some very, very special friends.
Okay, so that's really, so the staffing, so she has someone in the daytime and then in the evenings as well.
24/7.
Oh, 24/7. Okay, great. All right. Thank you for asking that, Tammy. So we're going to move on to Sue. Thank you, Weda. So Sue, tell us about your son.
Well, good morning. My son is Matt Gaffney. Matt is 43 years old, and as of this past November 20th, Matt has lived in his own home in Athens with Georgia Option support for 20 years, which is something we celebrate big time. My son is someone that many people predicted would fail in the community. And so for Matt to have 20 successful years in the community, it is a big deal in our family. Now, he's not always, my son is severely autistic, he's nonverbal, he's bipolar, has extreme GI issues. And like Weda's dear daughter, Katie, Matt is a busy guy, as he would tell you. He's nonverbal, but has a few words, but has to be on the move a lot. A young man that can go for long periods and not sleep. And so it's a very unique staff support that we need, but Georgia Options has consistently provided that for our son and his needs. And as far as what other things did Matt experience prior to coming to Georgia Options, Matt has always been faster than his mama and papa. And I began looking into other programs actually when Matt was 15 and 16 years old. A friend and I went to Albany, Georgia, and checked out Annette Bowling's program there. And we observed a Down syndrome couple living in their own home. And that's 28 years ago. And that just blew our minds at that time. And she also had people that were very high functioning living in their own apartments. And we found that very interesting. And then the group homes. From there, we went to Savannah. It was group homes. We went to Atlanta, group homes. And the last visit was Athens. And it was after Georgia Options' first year of operation. They have now, this coming year, will be in operation for 30 years, which is a big deal for any provider to have that kind of a track record. So when we visited actually 3 homes. And the first home was a gentleman with CP and physical, mental challenges. And yet he delivered Meals on Wheels. He had all kinds of activities in his life. And we were just enthused in seeing this in each of the homes we visited. So we returned home and kept these thoughts of what we had observed. And just as I had feared, my son trumped his mama, and by age 18 was toxic on meds for the third time. And no hospital would take Matt. And as we withdrew all the meds, our son became the Hulk. And we had no choice but to place Matt in an institutional setting, the last thing any of us wanted to do. And frankly, the doctor had him stable in a couple of weeks, and we wanted to bring Matt home. And when I inquired about it, they said, if you do, your son will not get funding again until you die. And my grandparents lived into their 90s. And I thought, wow, I can't keep up with Matt in my 80s and 90s. So we struggled along with the institutional life. But Matt, in his own way, was letting us know, get me out of here. And so we worked hard. It took a year and a half, but we got Matt out, and we were lucky to have a provider accept him in the community. And he was in a group home. We tried 2 group homes. But the gentlemen were of different ages, older than Matt. They were ready for naps. Matt was ready to keep running. And one setting, one of the guys didn't care for country music. Country music is Matt's life. So it wasn't working. And then without us being informed, the provider dropped our son, literally packed him up and took him to a state hospital and dropped him off at the door. And we were just devastated when this occurred. Literally the very next day, a very close group of friends came to our home, and they said, Gaffney's, you know where the best is. You have visited the best. The best is in Athens. Let Matt go. Take him to Athens, because no one is going to serve Matt here, and he'll never have the quality of life that you need for him. And so we made that decision. I looked into apartments for Matt, and I saw some in which were more economical to do, to have an apartment rather than a home. Our problem is that our Matt can be very noisy at night, and I was afraid he would be booted out. And so we ended up buying a small home for Matt in the community. And we have just it's been such an interesting experience, because the neighbors have embraced our son. They look out for him.
Right.
And if Matt is having a not so good day, they recognize it, but they're still friendly and deal with him and his staff. My son has worked at the YMCA for 17 years. And he goes twice a week and works a half hour to maybe 45 minutes. And they treat Matt like a rock star. Briggs, another company, supports Matt in the job situation, but he delivers Meals on Wheels. And he had been volunteering at the food bank until the pandemic. He also takes horseback riding for people with challenge. So Matt's life is right for these 20 years has been everything that we as parents had hoped for. Is it perfect? No. But my Matt, if he could speak, would tell you it wasn't perfect at home either. And
go ahead, Sue.
Well, we are forever grateful for the life that our son has. It's just has been so wonderful to watch his adult life unfold in these 20 years.
So 20 years, that's absolutely incredible. And so, first of all, I want to just ask folks, if they have any questions. And here's the challenge that we may come across today, like this. So somebody was thinking about me right now. So whoever that was, we're kind of channeling the same question. So Georgia options in this model isn't necessarily everywhere, correct?
No.
I
Kind
can
of few
I
Yeah,
can
right.
that. Yeah. Georgia options as a provider, because if you know the way the state of Georgia works, disability services providers are approved for certain areas. You have to apply to provide services. And so right now, Georgia options is in the Athens area. We're in 11 counties. We go as far as Gwinnett. We do support Gwinnett County and the counties around Athens. We are asked a lot, and I can say this with surety because it's part of my role here and if there's anybody on this call that I owe a call to, a return call, let me just go ahead and apologize right now, because two things. One is we get many requests from people who say, can you serve this area? Can you serve that area? The short answer to that is no. We can only provide services in the areas of the state where we're approved. But that can change. That's something that we could expand to the entire state if the need was there, and if we were we set up the infrastructure to do that. And so that's sort of what makes conversations difficult when families call in, is because I completely believe that if your family member is looking for the type of support that Georgia Options does, I think we can handle it wherever you are in the state, whatever the situation is. But there's a waiting list, and there's the reality of expansion with thoughtfulness. Because one thing that we are not going to do is try to say that we will support somebody without knowing that we can be true to what our model is. Because it's not just, I said in the beginning that it's all about who owns the home, and that's true. But there's so many other fine things, like what Sue was saying about Matt's community embracing him. That's really Georgia Options' purpose. It's not just where people live. It starts with where you live. You need to live in your own place. But the real success happens when your own place is in a real community where you can develop real relationships with other people who are not paid to be in your life.
Right. So that's the Georgia Options model. And
Yes.
someone is asking, and we are so familiar with the waiting list term, and I know that you hate to use that term, but so someone's asking generally, how long is your waiting list in terms of months or years? And so just, this is a process, right? So I don't know if folks are interested in a model like this, but maybe live in a rural area, or maybe another state. Are there other organizations that provide? And someone's telling me my screen is freezing, and that's probably because of my internet. But anyway, thanks for letting me know. So are there other organizations that do similar work?
There are other providers in Georgia. There are other providers who have small numbers of people they can support in similar settings, but but they also have group homes. They also have, they do more traditional type of provider led services. There are some other states, Hawaii, Minnesota, Oregon. I had to write this down. And then in South Carolina, all of those states provide 24-hour supports to people like what Georgia Options does. I think to get to the meat of the question is, so if this is what we want, then what do we do?
Exactly.
So you probably know, and I don't want to get too far off into advocacy land, but you probably know that the way that policies and fee structures and things are set up now with the waivers, it doesn't really support what Georgia Options is doing. That's why there are so many providers who do group homes, because that's really the way the state's plan is aimed. We believe, and I believed as a parent before I even knew about Georgia Options, that Callie needed to have a choice. And for her to really have a choice in where she lives and who she lives with and what she does with her day, she needs additional support. So I would say to families that are interested, go to our website, get looped into our organization. If you want to learn more about Georgia Options, we can tell you if we currently support people in your area. Also, I think it's important for families to know that. Could I just give a little bit of the history of Georgia Options? Because
that would be really helpful.
important.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. Yeah.
Right. And as Sue, I think, said, Georgia Options we're about to celebrate 30 years in operation. And in 30 years, a lot has changed. I mean, y'all know just the world of disability services has changed in 30 years. So the Georgia Options 30 years ago, when at its inception, is not exactly the Georgia Options now, but in some ways it is still the same. The organization, it's a nonprofit, and it was founded when there were a group of families, and Mary Kissel was the first executive director and mom to a young man who the offerings that were available, the group home settings, host home settings, just did not work for her family member and a group of other family members. And so they got together and said, as mamas and daddies and family members will sometimes do, well, maybe we should just make it. If it's not out there, maybe we should just figure it out and do it ourselves. And so that's what they did. And they formed a nonprofit. They started providing supports. And the mission of Georgia Options, that we support people in their own homes, and that we, in order for them to have typical life experiences like folks without disabilities, that's been in place all along. So even though regulations and, the other things in the world have changed somewhat, that mission has held true. And because of that, there are some things that make it more difficult for Georgia Options to, like, we can't just, like, for example, the question, how long is the waiting list? It's similar to the comp waiting list. It's not just you get a place in line and then when your number comes up, there's a spot. Now, that works in other settings. If you're looking for a slot, if you're looking, you may know that the state provider network keeps what's called the bedboard. And if a provider has an open bed, I'm doing this, but it literally is a bed, then they put the number on, they put the place on as a slot on the bedboard. Now, it might be in Tifton, it might be in, Blairsville, it might be anywhere. And if that's what works for you, because this is, choice is choice. What I think is best choice for my family member is not what another family member needs. So I don't mean to say that that's not right for some people. It very well could be. But I know that doesn't work for Callie. Callie needs a roommate that can be accommodating to her if she, perfect example, we have, Callie's lived in the apartment now for 1.5 years. And in that time, she's had 5 instances, I think, where we've had to call, the staff had to call 911 and load her up in the ambulance and take her to the hospital. That's a fact of life for Callie. That's part of what her life is. So she needs a roommate that can work with that. She needs a staff that are able to deal with that. And then on good days, take her downtown where she wants to sit and watch cute boys walk up and down College Avenue, because that's really how she likes to spend her day. And so that matching of what the person truly needs, the individual wants and wishes and hopes and dreams, matched with where they live, with whom they live, how they spend their day. It's hard to match all that up. But when it happens, let me tell you, it is a beautiful thing.
Yes, I absolutely would agree with that, Pam. I'm going to take a couple questions here. So Joyce is asking, does the 24-hour one-to-one service require comp and ICW?
No, that's a really good question. If you're following the comp application that was submitted to the federal agency, one of the things that came up in that was limiting the amount of skilled nursing that was allowed under comp. And you probably know, if you don't, I can let you know that that application is still sitting in Washington. It has not been approved. So if you have support coordination or anybody for that matter telling you that 24-hour CLS is going away, or more than 16 hours nursing is going away, that's the application, but that has not been approved. And all right, here's my advocate's hat, and it won't go away because there are people who need 24-hour CLS. There are people who need 24-hour nursing, or 20 hours, or 18, or you need what you need. And so to answer the question, no. First of all, you that's not possible because you can't have two waivers. That's in regulation. You can only have one waiver or another. So in Callie's case, she has a comp waiver that is funded to include the CLS staff that she needs, the DSPs who support her with help her do her social media and those kind of things, and then the nursing support that she needs to take care of her medical needs.
Okay. So a couple questions here, more questions. First of all, a couple of comments about how Callie is watching the boys. They really appreciate that. Some folks are saying, let me just get through. So let's see here. So they're not forced to attend a day program. They can do what they want to do. Okay.
Yes.
It truly is person-centered. It's truly around the individual's interests and what that individual likes to do.
Right.
And I'm not sure if we can answer this, but Andrea says providers don't always have a current bedboard available. You would think the region would keep a current bedboard. Any comments, feedback on that?
I don't know. As far as the current current status of the bedboard, all I know is that the state relies on providers to give them that information. So if providers are not, including that, then I guess that's how you would know. Now I can say for Georgia Options, because we provide services in a different way, we're not on the bedboard. So
that's the question. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so you're not.
Right.
Okay.
We're sort of outside the norm. Not sort of, we're outside the norm. We do everything differently, and we don't fit into that system. So we are not invited to participate in the bedboard. So we rely on support coordinators or families to just share information with other people. And we want folks to know we're here, but you won't find us on the bedboard.
Okay.
We don't have beds.
Here's a good question. So thinking about those who are participant directed and who have a comp waiver, and are thinking about sustainability too, would this model fit into being able to support those individuals?
Well, first of all, here's my philosophy in life: anything's possible. But you probably know, if you are doing the participant directed model, that you have to choose one or the other. You are either participant directed or you use a traditional provider. So in terms of Georgia Options, no, you couldn't be participant directed and get services through Georgia Options. But could you do this on your own? Absolutely. It would depend on the level of support. Now, I can tell you, I wanted nothing more than to direct Callie's. I've changed my mind about it now, but there was a time when I wanted to direct her services. The problem was that she needed 24-hour support, and a participant-directed budget is not going to allow probably for the funding that you need to be able to support. But that doesn't mean, it depends on the person. Again, it's really person-centered, like Sue said. So I can tell you that Georgia Options currently has people that we support who don't need 24-hour support. They need a few hours a day, or they need a few days a week, but not 24 hours. They live on their own, and then we provide the support so that they can, have what they need. I hope that answered the question.
I think so. I think so. So if someone participant directs, there are certainly others in this online community that participant direct and have purchased a home and share resources, et cetera, with other roommates. So that may be an upcoming interview that I'm doing just to let folks know. At the same time, having said that, it's a lot lot of work on that family. It's a lot of work on the family.
Yes.
So
We used
so
to
just being,
when Kate, before Katie came to Georgia Options, we also did direct support for our respite. And oh my God, why would you want to? Well, why would you want to be doing all of the paperwork, doing all of your hiring, logging it? Oh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
I've been doing it for 7 years. Yeah.
Wow.
We did it with Katie for about 7 or 8 years before she went into the group home setting. But I would not. And as I'm getting older, I don't ever want to do that. It's a lot of work, and keeping up with your child's home is enough work, so that keeping up with their staff and their waiver and all that stuff, I don't ever want to go back to having to self-direct what I'm paying.
It is a tremendous amount of work. Yeah, tremendous.
Yes.
So in our state, which I don't know if others may be watching in the future from outside the state of Georgia, but in our state we have group home option, host home option, participant direct option, and then we have an option such as something that Georgia Options is offering, that providing services in your own home. How many people, Pam, does Georgia Options currently serve? That may help folks as well.
24 right now,
24.
which is right. It's smallish number of people. Now there are, I think, I should have gotten these statistics.
That's okay. You don't have to.
I think there are 18 separate households. So a number of people live by themselves, and then we have a fair number of folks who are in roommate situations.
Okay, so let me talk about some very specifics on things. And this is, again, nuts and bolts. So when a family member passes and their son or daughter's living in that home, do you serve individuals where the family member has passed?
We do. And I'm going to say this. I want to be sure that I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not going to use any names, but this is to honor the memory of someone. We had someone who passed this past year, and this woman was 86, I believe, at the time of her passing. She lived in the home where she was actually born. And her parents, her siblings, everyone in her family had already passed. She had one family member who was still, involved in her life. And it's just one of the things that I think is so important to me as a mama. And I think that I have found with Georgia Options Only, and that is that we commit to people. We're not going to decide that, we commit to people. We make things work out. And so this woman was, she was having issues in her life that were just aging issues. It had nothing to do with her developmental disability. When you're in your 80s and your health begins to decline, things change. And so I was so happy that as an agency, we were able to keep the supports in place, because the last thing that she wanted was to leave her home. And the easy solution was for her to go into a nursing facility, or for her, and this is something that, just to throw out there, that I didn't know until this situation came up. But right now, Georgia policy says that if you have a waiver, you can't have hospice care. And so even toward the end of, I know it's maddening, even toward the end of her life, when hospice care was really the level of support that she needed, we figured out a way to be able to help her stay up until she took her last breath in her own home, because that's where she chose to be. And that's, I think, just how we can honor the person, is to, from start to finish, we commit to the person, and we're going to do what it takes to figure out. And it's not easy sometimes. And I will say this, and this is, as somebody who not only is a parent whose daughter is supported, but also as a staff member, it's not, like when Weda was talking about how this is so different from participant direction where you have to do everything. It's also not where a situation where you just say, okay, here you go, and walk away from your family member.
Right. You have highly engaged family members, correct?
Yes.
They're not, yeah.
Yes. We have a family action committee. Actually, Weda is head of our family action committee. We families do fundraising. Families are engaged. Now, we do what we do, whatever we do, voluntarily, but for the success of the organization, I think that, we have great, we've had great executive directors, we've had great boards, but I think what makes Georgia Options different is it was started by a bunch of families. And like Sue, the Gaffneys have been for 20 years,
Right. So Pam, could some family members who are in, let's just say, Columbus or in, rural area, if 10 family members get together and say, we want to do something like this.
Yes.
I just think, to me, the more age, in my middle age, let's just say that, I'm thinking about practical things. Okay. So I'm thinking about, can this be replicated if a group of parents that are highly dedicated and engaged in another part of the state want to do that? And then that's number one. Number two, I'm thinking about things like, if a family member passes, or when a family, because it's going to happen, who takes care of the home in terms of maintenance, in terms of paying taxes, making sure that individual, are those some of the services that Georgia Options gets involved in terms of that home, keeping that home and sustaining the home?
Yes. Some of the people, the majority of the people that Georgia Options supports, Georgia Options serves as their rep payee. And so their Social Security payment goes to Georgia Options, who then pays their mortgage, pays their rent, pays their electric, pays their taxes, pays whatever needs to happen. Now, I will tell you that one of the things that we're doing in terms of looking ahead is we have a 5-year plan, and one of the pillars of that 5-year plan is for everybody to be prepared for the future. So we are in process of setting up systems and working with families so that medical decisions are made. We know what families and individuals want, because anything can happen to any of us at any time.
Absolutely.
We all talk about, when we get old and we can't do this anymore. Well, it could happen at any time.
Right.
So we try to have that. We have some of those things as much as we can figured out early on, and then it's just a constantly developing. As things change, we duck and weave and move and just keep on going forward.
And Tina's asking. Oh, go ahead, Weda.
I think as not only Georgia Options, but as families, I think the families that Georgia Options supports, that we're better informed or more prepared, I guess. I'm not saying that others aren't, but like we have wills set up and special needs trusts, and everything is kind of lined up. I keep spreadsheets of the utilities for Katie's house, just so my daughter can step in and start doing and taking care and knows where everything is. I try to be very organized.
Georgia Options doesn't manage Katie's finances, right?
No, they do not. They do not. Katie does everything. everything is done on credit card, so I can see it. I also, one of the things in our house, and it makes me feel comfortable, is we have cameras in our house, and you can't do that in a group home. I have a camera to make me feel good, to make me trust others with my daughter. And, I'm very open about it from the start. Anybody comes into the house as, that's training or considering Katie's house to work at, our cameras help me, because the only way Katie can't tell me if she likes someone or not. I can only tell by her body behavior.
Right.
And if it's not a good mix, next.
Right. Yeah. That's the way to
So,
do it.
it's very important for me to trust people. I just, that's number one. And I'm big on that. And once I trust you, I'm not looking at the cameras. I'm not, but
Yeah. So trust is a big thing. Yes. So do you all mind if I take some questions and some comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Someone is asking, do you need to try group homes, host homes, before you get 24/7 to be in your own home?
No.
That's, I think, the journey that we've seen some of the folks. So I don't think the answer to that is yes, right? I mean, you don't have to do, yeah. But I think it's good to start planning, whatever age, for folks that are watching. And I have other videos on a playlist. So this is not the only one. You can get an idea of other families and their experiences as well. And then what about guardianship? Do parents have to have guardianship? Yeah, is that to participate?
Some do, some don't.
Okay.
We one of our pillars that we operate under is supported decision making. We try to, but at the same time, we absolutely respect whatever, because that's a family decision. And so if guardianship is in place, then it's in place, and we follow, whatever the guardianship stipulates. And if not, then it is, that's one of the reasons that it's so important for us to have those future plans laid out. If someone doesn't have a guardian, we better have a plan in place. Georgia Options is never, and this is just the way that the rules are. We don't make decisions for the people we support. We're not legally allowed to make decisions for the people that we support. So that's why it's so important. If there's a guardian, fine. If there's not, then we look for other family members, other important people in their lives, and we keep them engaged all along, so that if the person, for whatever reason, is not able to make the decision for himself or herself, there's a trusted person there who can help.
Okay. So Joyce is asking, wouldn't the home gain new owner via inheritance? If participant is heir, then Medicaid can recapture some of the money at participant's death. Does anyone know the answer to that?
I'm sorry. We just redid our will right before COVID, and we put. I was trying to think if you had him on here. Wonderful attorney in Duluth, but and he has a special needs child. But we put everything in a special needs trust. Our entire estate is going into a special needs trust, and the house will go into the special needs trust. So that they're, and our oldest daughter will manage and maintain that for Katie and for our grandchildren, but primarily Katie. But the house doesn't change names. It's just, it will be just listed under the special needs trust.
Okay, so this is Heidi's question. Who owns Katie's house?
We do.
Yeah. So the family, so you own it, and she rents from you.
That's correct, because with her Social Security, she has to pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
Because she gets Social Security, she has to pay rent and she has to pay utilities. So we, of course, assist her, but that's neither here nor there.
And I would advise families to connect with an attorney for those kinds of decisions, since none of us are attorneys here today that can advise, so we don't want to do any of that. Okay.
Exactly.
Other questions that folks have, here's just some comments that someone's been denied the comp waiver who doesn't need 24-hour support, recommendations for someone who can help with the waiver. Any comments, concerns, anything that we can do as families to help or to advise, rather?
Support
I think the getting approved for the waiver starts at the region level. And so advocacy at the region level,
that's your best bet.
Yeah, that's your best bet, is call your regional field office and make a nuisance of yourself if you have to until somebody listens to you. And if you believe that your family member has not been properly assessed, if you think that their assessment is wrong, then keep pushing, because you know your family member better than anybody. Just keep pushing until you feel like they've given a fair assessment.
Yeah, so no one on this interview today is someone that can make those kinds of decisions. So I reread the statement again.
It's just calling, the DBHDD office and the
So
region.
here's another question. What if a family does have the resources? So say, for example, they can self-pay. Does this option work does Georgia Options work for someone in that category as well?
It does. It
Okay.
does. We absolutely do accept self-payment for people who are able to do that.
Okay, great. So we are at the end of our time together, and I just want to, before we jumped on live, we talked a little bit about letting go and the challenge of letting go. So I'd love to just bring that to everyone's mind as a way to conclude our interview today. What was that like for you to let go of that control to allow your son or daughter to launch?
It was tough. When my little group of friends gathered that morning after Matt was dropped off at the state hospital, and they said, "Sue, you know who's best. Move Matt to Athens. Have Georgia Options care for him." And at first I was like shocked. I was like, "What? My son moved 90.2 miles from my home? Are you crazy?" But it was, as I sat there and thought about it, no one in our area would take Matt. And I knew we could not provide all the care and activities that he needed 24/7 long term. And so we did it. We made the jump, and thank God we did. It was the best thing that we could have done, but it was tough. And it was initially, and I have to say, there were times when I had concerns about certain caregivers. And on a specific time, one young man spoke to Matt in a way that I didn't think was appropriate in front of me. And I helped him get dismissed. And my son let me know that was a huge mistake, that I might not have approved how he spoke to him, but my son interpreted that he was talking to him as a peer. And Mom, if you don't mind, stay out of my business.
Yes.
And
That's what
so,
makes it hard.
And so I learned, Matt had to teach me, stay out of it. And so if someone isn't appropriate, Matt helps them want to find the door. They will leave.
Okay.
But if they are good, he will do everything he can to keep them, and so will his family.
Great. Weda, anything else to say on the letting go?
Letting go was probably the hardest thing I have ever done. I myself have some health issues but I knew that when it happened, we had to move, and we had to move quickly when we got our full comp waiver. and technology helped me through it, because we've been not Vizio, I think it was. I don't know what the name of it was. Did before Facebook came in, and FaceTime came in, and then now Katie FaceTimes me every single day because she knows how to push that FaceTime icon. But it's so hard. But as we're aging, I know this is the right decision. Yes, I could take care of her here at this house for a short period of time, my husband and I, but that's not what Katie wants, and it's not what she needs, and it's not what we need as we're getting older. And it's terrifying, and there's always someone in our groups, whether it's this group with Rita, I'm also in other groups, special needs groups and stuff, and you reach out to your friends and say, just help me through this. Just help me through this. And it's okay. It's the right thing. But keeping them at home isn't always the right thing. It just, they blossom when they come out into their own and doing what they want to do.
And Pam, anything else? Folks are saying thank you.
I love what both Weda and Sue have said, and I think it's that whole letting go. That's not disability specific. That's parenting.
That's mom.
Every parent has to come to the place where you realize that what you think is best may not be what your child, whether that child's 18 or 22 or 32, right, however, and then you acknowledge that they have the right to launch, as you said at the beginning, Rita. My girl launched in the middle of a pandemic, and I can tell y'all that was not what my mama's heart thought was the best thing, but she let me know in her way, just like Matt and Katie and others let you know. She knew what she wanted and she knew what she needed, and I really needed to get out of her way and let her do her thing. And so you just have to take a deep breath and jump. And I've been amazed at what's happened. I think others would agree.
What a beautiful thing. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for sharing your stories today. I just appreciate all of you and this time and everyone that's joined us today. We've had about 40-ish people who were joining live, so just appreciate everyone and their comments. I'll keep doing more of these types of interviews if you would like. And just everyone have a wonderful day and best of success in your launch of your son or daughter.
Yes.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.